At the moment Lin Ming swallowed the black bead in his hand, his eyes almost instantly turned blood red. As bloodshot veins crawled across his eyes, the veins on his forehead writhed like earthworms, creating an extremely terrifying sight. Of course, it wasn't just his appearance that changed. Anyone could feel that at this very moment, a strange and powerful wave of energy, akin to a storm, was erupting from his mind. Mu Chun and Zhang Tai Luli's expressions immediately changed. This wave of energy was the power of intent. At this moment, Lin Ming's intent had grown extremely strong compared to before, but now, his intent was filled with a violent fury. He can actually consume the intent of others and transform it into his own. Mu Chun and Zhang Tai Luli both felt a shock, stunned by Lin Ming's method. This was because intent, unlike spiritual energy, contained a person's powerful will. If one easily consumed and absorbed another's intent, the result would only be one: difficulty in integration, eventually causing a split, and directly leading to the fragmentation of the mind. No battle formation master would dare to easily absorb another's intent, so when Mu Chun and Zhang Tai Luli saw Lin Ming's actions, they were naturally in disbelief. No wonder Lin Ming dared to accept the challenge. It turns out he was hiding such a trump card. Sky Dragon Lord said, somewhat surprised. Clearly, Lin Ming's method had caught him off guard as well. Though his intent is stronger now, it has become a bit chaotic and violent. Such a method will inevitably come with side effects. Zhang Tai Luli said with a slight flicker in her beautiful eyes. There's no power that comes without a price in this world. Although Lin Ming's technique is strange and powerful, the cost may not be small. He doesn't have many choices now. As long as he defeats Mu Chun, the great Luo Heaven Domain will fall into an irreversible state. So no matter the cost, it's worth it, said Sky Dragon Lord indifferently. As long as Mu Chun loses, the great Luo Heaven Domain will collapse. Fang Yi also said in a deep voice. Zhang Tai Luli remained silent, her brows slightly furrowed. She gazed at the slender young figure in the distance. Indeed, as Sky Dragon Lord had said, if Mu Chun loses, the consequences for the great Luo Heaven Domain will be catastrophic. Facing Lin Ming, who had used such a strange method to absorb the intent of numerous battle intent commanders and become stronger, Mu Chun wasn't sure if he still had a way to turn the tide. The veins on Lin Ming's forehead twisted as his face contorted, snarling a fierce grin at the distant Mu Chun, whose face was solemn. The violent intent in his mind seemed ready to shatter his head. This was the side effect of using such a method, but no matter the cost, today, he would kill Mu Chun here. Only by seizing Mu Chun's intent could he minimize the cost of this method. Today you will die. Lin Ming's voice was filled with an intense killing intent. Having already paid such a heavy price to win this battle, he had no choice but to succeed. Boom. Lin Ming suddenly stomped his foot, and behind him, the vast battle intent surged upwards like a raging storm, resembling a sky-covering wave with an overwhelming momentum. Die! With a roar, the dark and violent battle intent transformed into countless strands of battle intent whips, sweeping across the air. These whips coiled in midair and solidified into massive dark battle spears, each covered in dense battle runes. At this moment, Lin Ming's strike was far more powerful than before. The force behind it made many strong cultivators feel their scalps tingle. Whoosh! Whoosh! The sky was filled with battle spears, resembling a rain of arrows, sweeping across the area where Mu Chun stood. The space in that area began to distort due to the terrifying attack that was about to strike. Facing this violent and powerful Lin Ming, Mu Chun's face was equally solemn. He took a deep breath and quickly formed hand seals, unleashing a colossal surge of battle intent from behind him. Buzz buzz. The mighty battle intent surged forward, and in the blink of an eye, it gathered in front of Mu Chun, forming a massive battle shield that stretched thousands of feet. The shield was covered in densely packed battle runes, shining with dazzling light, and as heavy as a mountain. At this moment, Mu Chun had undoubtedly summoned the full power of the 5 armies' battle intent. Boom, boom. As the battle shield was forming, the overwhelming assault came crashing in with ferocity. In an instant, a deafening roar echoed through the heavens and earth, as countless battle spears fell like a torrential downpour, smashing into the massive shield. Each strike sounded like thunder, and the destructive shockwaves of battle intent sent ripples through the very fabric of space, causing cracks to appear, stretching out from the point of distortion. The forces from all corners of the world trembled as they gazed at the earth-shattering clash in the sky. Boom. The fierce collision continued unabated, but it was evident to everyone that the towering battle shield, as massive as a mountain, was beginning to warp. It was clear that it was struggling to withstand Lin Ming's terrifying assault. At this moment, Lin Ming was far more ruthless and vicious than before. "Break for me." Lin Ming's savage laugh rang out, and the storm of battle spears intensified. The final barrage of spears pierced through the thick battle shield with brutal force. Boom. The massive shield finally shattered into pieces. Spurt. Behind, many soldiers from the 5 armies were slightly pale, spitting blood, clearly affected by the shockwave of battle intent. Further behind, the kings of the Great Luo domain were shaken upon witnessing this scene. Their faces became extremely tense, and the fluctuating tides of battle had clearly rattled even them, unable to remain calm. Mu Chen's body was also forced back several hundred yards. He quickly stabilized himself and glanced at the 5 armies. Upon seeing several soldiers spitting blood, his gaze suddenly turned cold. "Next move. I will leave none of your armies standing." Lin Ming bared his sharp teeth, then raised his hand and struck downward. Boom. From behind him, a vast black battle intent rose up, gathering into columns of dark light. In a mere handful of breaths, a gigantic dark skull materialized once again. However, this time, the dark skull was twice as large as before, and the battle runes on it were far more numerous and radiant. As the dark skull appeared, the powerful figures of all the factions watching could not help but flinch, sensing the overwhelming danger it radiated. Those battle runes. Zhan Tai Lu Li's beautiful eyes narrowed in shock. Her delicate face changed as she stared at the dark skull and murmured, "There are over 15,000 battle runes now." Previously, the battle spirit created by Lin Ming had only around a little over 10,000 runes, but now it had nearly doubled. The sheer power it represented was unimaginable. The battle spirit with such runes, if it unleashed its power, could easily overwhelm not just ordinary 6th grade Supremes, but even those who had reached the peak of the 6th grade Supreme would struggle desperately. Lin Ming was clearly preparing to kill without mercy. Ha! The enormous dark skull floated behind Lin Ming like a mountain of darkness. Compared to it, his figure seemed minuscule, but the violent aura emanating from him was enough to make anyone wary. His blood-red eyes locked onto the cold-faced Mu Chen in the distance, and he let out a sinister laugh. Mu Chen was indeed a tricky opponent, but that didn't matter. Soon, he would become the first battle formation master to die at Lin Ming's hands. "You and your armies will be buried here." Lin Ming grinned menacingly, and then his hands swiftly formed a seal. As his image blurred, the over 10,000 battle runes on the dark skull glowed with a brilliant light. A terrifyingly violent wave of battle intent swept outward, like a storm roaring through the surroundings. The powerful figures from all factions grew solemn. It was clear to everyone that Lin Ming was ready to end the fight, and this battle, crucial for both the Netherworld Palace and the Great Luo domain, was about to decide the victor. At this moment, it seemed the Great Luo domain had already fallen into a dire situation. The kings of the Great Luo domain clenched their fists tightly. Under the gaze of countless eyes from all around, Mu Chen took a deep breath. He looked towards the soldiers in the army behind him, their eyes still filled with battle intent and trust. Throughout their journey, Mu Chen had led the army, creating numerous miracles. Without him, they would have had little chance to stand out in the Great Hunting War, a battleground filled with powerful warriors. They would have likely become cannon fodder, just like in the past, caught in the crossfire of battles between stronger opponents. Mu Chen's presence had allowed them to prove their worth. Without the leadership of a battle formation master, an army would inevitably fall into mediocrity. As long as Mu Chen remained at the forefront, they would not give up. Sensing the emotions in the eyes of his soldiers, Mu Chen lightly pressed his lips together, and a sharp glint surged from his black eyes. He suddenly lifted his head and fixed his gaze on Lin Ming, who stood in the air with a fierce expression. If you want to fight, then let's see this through today. The hidden techniques were not exclusive to you. A cold light flickered in Mu Chen's eyes as he slowly brought his hands together. Meanwhile, his eyes, under the astonished gazes from all around, gradually closed. Boom. Deep within the thunder prison in his mind, where thunder clouds swirled, a black orb that had been hammered by bolts of lightning trembled slightly. It seemed to be drawn by some force, and with a whoosh, it disappeared into the thunder prison. That orb was the seed of Mu Chen's will, left behind when he split his consciousness after refining the thunder prison. Now, with the return of the seed of his will, Mu Chen's mind finally became complete. Lin Ming stood suspended in the air, his violent battle intent swirling around him, forming a battle-intent storm. As it swept across, the pressure became so intense that even the space itself began to warp. A terrifying sense of oppression was emanating from Lin Ming. He felt the overwhelming fury in his mind, like a volcano about to erupt, the force threatening to crush his head, causing veins to throb visibly on his forehead. Yet, at this moment, he forcibly suppressed the chaos in his mind, his blood-red eyes locking onto Mu Chen's figure. When he saw Mu Chen close his eyes, the corner of his eye twitched, and he sneered. At this moment, you're still trying to play tricks. You really don't know when to quit. The overwhelming will flooding his mind not only caused intense pain, but also filled Lin Ming with confidence. In this state, he was absolutely certain he could crush Mu Chen. While they were both battle formation masters with 10,000 runes, Lin Ming's battle formations were far superior, even among the 10,000 rune battle formation masters. Mu Chen, who could barely break through 10,000 runes, stood no chance against him. This battle was already in his grasp. However, despite this confidence, Lin Ming couldn't shake the sense of unease creeping up on him. His cautious nature warned him that this battle was far from over. Mu Chen was no ordinary opponent, and if he had found an opening, he needed to ensure that Mu Chen could not rise again. As this thought crossed his mind, Lin Ming's eyes became filled with cruelty. His hand formed a rapid seal, and above him, the massive black skull with deep-set eye sockets suddenly lit with blood-red flames. From a distance, it appeared as though the skull was about to come back to life. Boom! A visible shockwave of violent battle intent erupted from the skull. The space around it trembled, and the giant jaw of the black skull slowly opened. Black ripples gathered wildly in its mouth, emitting a silent but destructive wave that made the strong warriors nearby twitch nervously. The kings of the Great Luo domain clenched their fists tightly, their eyes fixed on the unmoving Mu Chen. At this point, all they could do was hope that Mu Chen still had a trump card left. If Mu Chen has no more tricks up his sleeve, he will surely fall to Lin Ming. The top forces such as the Demon Gate and 10,000 Saints Mountain thought to themselves, shaking their heads. The situation was clearly under Lin Ming's control, and if Mu Chen had exhausted his abilities, the outcome of the battle would be hard to change. Boom! Under the intense gaze of all the forces present, Lin Ming's eyes suddenly flashed with intense brilliance. The black ripples in the black skull's mouth had reached their maximum intensity. A cruel smile spread across Lin Ming's face as he slammed his hands together. Buzz! The massive jaw of the dark skull suddenly opened wide, and dark ripples surged violently from within. Then, with a whoosh, a black beam of light, about 100 feet in length, shot out at incredible speed. This black light was eerie, completely devoid of any fluctuation, as if it were a void of death. As it swept through the air, even the spiritual energy in the surroundings seemed to be erased by its presence. The many powerful individuals sensing the overwhelming dominance of this black light couldn't help but feel a chill run down their spines. If struck by this light, their internal spiritual energy would likely be temporarily erased. Lin Ming's methods were truly domineering and vicious to the extreme. No one knew how Mu Chen would respond to such an attack. Buzz! Under the gaze of countless eyes, the black light swept across the sky and then directly enveloped Mu Chen. Its speed was as fast as a thunderbolt, impossible to dodge. At the back, the Xun'er king frowned deeply. His body was tensed, ready to intervene. If Mu Chen couldn't withstand Lin Ming's attack, he would have no choice but to act and retrieve Mu Chen by force. The deathly light descended, But just as many of the powerful experts thought Mu Chen had given up resisting, he suddenly opened his tightly shut eyes. In his black pupils, it was as though thunder lightning flickered. His eyes, at this moment, were as sharp as a hawk's, seemingly capable of piercing through space itself. Zhantai Lu Li was the first to notice the change in Mu Chen's gaze. Her delicate face changed instantly. As, being a battle formation master, she understood the peculiar power of mental will. Though invisible, the eyes were the most prominent place to display this force. Mu Chen's subtle change in his eyes clearly showed that his mental will had become extraordinarily powerful in that moment. During the brief time when he had closed his eyes, his mental will had grown stronger. This guy, truly unpredictable. Zhantai Lu Li, whose heart had been tightly wounded, relaxed somewhat. Regardless of the outcome, she and Mu Chen had worked together genuinely, sharing some secrets between them. Compared to sinister figures like Lin Ming or Xiao, Zhantai Lu Li was much more inclined to consider Mu Chen a friend. Thus, she secretly hoped for Mu Chen's victory, even if it didn't align with what the Divine Pavilion expected. As Mu Chen's eyes opened, the deathly black light enveloped him, reflected in his pupils, making his gaze even more profound. His hands formed seals, leaving behind afterimages. Behind him, all the soldiers from the 5 armies seemed to shudder, sensing a strange force calling to them. Under this unique pull, the battle intent surging from their bodies suddenly reached its peak. Boom! The immense battle intent surged forward like an ocean, quickly converging behind Mu Chen. As the battle intent storm roared, everyone saw a massive battle flag appear within it. The surface of the flag seemed to be wrapped in thunder light, and dense battle runes began to shine on it. The instant the battle flag appeared, the entire area seemed to dim slightly. A heavy, indescribable pressure emanated from that battle flag. That battle flag. The eyes of many powerful individuals narrowed as they stared at the flag, and they collectively gasped. They noticed that the battle runes on the flag numbered around 16,000. This was even more than the number of runes on Lin Ming's dark skull. Clearly, Mu Chen had also activated some secret technique, making his mental will far more powerful. With the same battle intent, he had managed to condense more, stronger battle runes. Playing tricks, Lin Ming also saw this scene, and when he noticed the number of runes on Mu Chen's flag, his pupils constricted. However, his first reaction was that Mu Chen was trying to intimidate him with a trick. Even if this was real, both sides were only evenly matched at best. He still held the upper hand and knew that even if Mu Chen tried to retaliate, it wouldn't be as easy as he thought. Without hesitation, Lin Ming's deathly light turned even more violent as it descended with greater force. Mu Chen's hands gripped the air, as if firmly holding the massive battle flag. With a sharp gaze, he swung it downward. The massive battle flag swept down like a blade, and at the moment it struck, a furious roar erupted from the 5 armies behind it. Then, the overwhelming battle intent surged like a tidal wave, finally pouring into the flag. As the battle intent continuously poured in, battle runes began to emerge on the flag once again. The number of battle runes is continuously increasing. Strong experts were stunned, realizing that the flag's momentum was growing at an astonishing speed, and the number of runes was increasing rapidly. In just a few breaths, the number of runes on the flag had already reached 17,000. Zhantai Lu Li's delicate body shook slightly, and her face became exceptionally serious. She was also somewhat shocked. Just how much stronger had Mu Chen's will become? Could it be that even 16,000 runes were not his limit? Impossible. Lin Ming's face also changed drastically, his eyes filled with disbelief. However, he soon gritted his teeth and said, "Such a trick. Do you think you can deceive me?" He knew that some battle formation masters had the ability to condense false battle runes to intimidate their opponents, in order to seize the initiative. Therefore, his first reaction was to think that Mu Chen was trying to use this method to break his advantage. Thus, facing Mu Chen's counterattack, he showed no sign of holding back. The deathly black light spread like darkness, suddenly enveloping Mu Chen. At this moment, whoever withdrew would face an almost devastating counterattack. Battle flag slash. At that moment, Mu Chen waved his hand, and the battle flag, like an unmatched blade, instantly struck down. Under the gaze of countless eyes, it landed heavily on the deathly black light. In that instant of collision, all the strong experts on the ground fixed their gaze. And at the moment of the strike, everyone noticed that the number of battle runes on the flag had already reached a shocking 18,000. Such a number of runes made Zhantai Lu Li's heart skip a beat. Boom. The massive battle flag, carrying rolling battle intent, howled down with an indescribable force. The fluttering flag exuded a razor-sharp aura, extremely fierce. In the midst of the countless shocked gazes, the number of battle runes on the flag had reached an astonishing 18,000 when it collided with the deathly black light. This number of runes made all the powerful experts gasp in awe. Hiss! While they were stunned, the flag and the deathly light collided violently. However, contrary to expectations, there was no earth-shattering shockwave. Instead, there was only a faint sound, like a blade slicing through tofu. The flag, like the blade opening the earth, effortlessly swept through the deathly black light in an instant. The flag waved gently, and Mu Chen's eyes were as calm as an ancient well, devoid of any fluctuations. The destructive black light split before him and finally skimmed past his head, flying out. Boom. As it flew out, the light shattered and turned into countless black dots, gradually dissipating. Countless pupils on the ground tightened. No one had expected that Lin Ming's strongest attack would seem so fragile under the swing of that battle flag. How could this be? Lin Ming's snarling face froze. He looked in disbelief at the scene before him. His most powerful trump card had been so easily neutralized. Under that flag, his strongest attack was almost as fragile as tofu. Are the battle runes on that flag really real? How could that be? Lin Ming finally came to his senses, but what followed was an even greater shock. He had only managed to condense his battle runes to 14,000 after absorbing numerous battle intents. But Mu Chen, how could he have 4,000 more? What kind of inheritance did this guy receive to be this powerful? Swish. While Lin Ming was still in shock, Mu Chen did not waste a single word. The battle flag tore through the deathly light, its momentum unabated. The sharp sound of wind cutting through the air suddenly woke Lin Ming from his trance. His face was filled with horror as he quickly retreated, simultaneously channeling his battle intent to form enormous defensive shields ahead of him. Whoosh! Whoosh! However, these defenses were effortlessly destroyed by the battle flag, as though they were made of paper. Puffed. As the battle intent shields were torn apart, Lin Ming could no longer withstand the shockwave of the battle intent. He coughed up blood and was sent flying backward in a disheveled manner. Puffed. Puffed. As Lin Ming was sent retreating in a pathetic state, behind him, within the ranks of the tens of thousands of soldiers, countless warriors were also severely wounded. Blood spurted from their mouths nonstop. Just minutes ago, these soldiers had been full of battle spirit, but now, they seemed to lose all energy in an instant. The previously overwhelming battle intent had now become chaotic and weak. Anyone could tell that these troops had suffered a heavy blow. Lin Ming looked at the collapsing sea of battle intent, his face pale. He understood. This clash had been a complete loss for him. The morale of his army was shattered. His mind throbbed with intense pain, and his will was weak. The after-effects of his earlier techniques had started to appear. Without his battle intent, he probably couldn't even defeat an ordinary 4th grade supreme. Lin Ming's eyes flickered rapidly, and he gritted his teeth, quickly retreating. However, just as he began to retreat, Mu Chen sneered coldly. With a clenched fist, he made the battle flag expand. The overwhelming battle intent transformed into a massive hand, instantly tearing through the void, aiming directly for Lin Ming. You dare! This sudden change happened in the blink of an eye. No one had expected Lin Ming to collapse so quickly. The powerful figures of the Netherworld Palace hadn't reacted in time. Only the evil king could be heard roaring, but in his haste, he could only strike out with a palm. A vast surge of spiritual power formed a massive spiritual palm that descended upon Mu Chen to suppress him. When a 7th grade supreme made a move, their overwhelming strength was revealed. Even though this attack was hurried, it was no weaker than the earlier full-force attacks from Mu Chen and Lin Ming. The spiritual palm pressed down like a mountain, but Mu Chen's eyes flashed, and with a cold snort, he did not retreat. He formed a seal with his hands, meeting the spiritual palm head-on with the battle-intent hand that had been reaching for Lin Ming. Boom! The clash caused the ground to shake. Shockwaves spread out, causing nearby mountains to collapse. The hard impact caused Chen to grunt. His battle-intent hand was shattered, but at the same time, the evil king's spiritual palm also faded and vanished. A wave of astonishment spread through the land. All the factions were shaken. While the battle formation masters had only been able to feel the intensity of the battle-intent clash, they were now truly shocked. A fifth-grade supreme like Chen had, with just his battle intent, been able to block an attack from a seventh-grade supreme. This strength was truly astounding. With a cold grunt, Chen's battle intent hand shattered. Suddenly, phoenix wings spread out from his back. With a powerful flap, he became a blur, moving faster than lightning and appearing before Lin Ming. Seeing this, Lin Ming's face changed dramatically. He quickly circulated his spiritual power and threw a punch at Chen. Chen glanced at him indifferently. Now a fifth-grade supreme, Chen was far stronger than Lin Ming, who had only reached the fourth-grade supreme with the help of external forces. If it came to a battle of spiritual power, Chen could defeat him in 3 moves. So Chen simply raised his palm. As his palm spun, it blocked Lin Ming's punch, and with a burst of force, Lin Ming's wrist was broken with a loud snap. Ah! Lin Ming screamed in pain, but Chen grabbed him as if he were a chicken. Helpless, he was utterly powerless to resist. The contrast between this moment and the earlier one was like night and day. This scene caused many powerful figures to sigh inwardly. Although battle formation masters were strong, they relied too much on their army's battle intent. Although the power of battle intent takes a unique approach, it comes with numerous limitations. This means that battle formation masters cannot enjoy the same freedom as spiritual energy cultivators, who can rely solely on their own strength to roam the vast world alone. Clearly, there is no such thing as a perfect power in this world. Son, you're being reckless. As Chen reached out to capture Lin Ming, the evil king finally snapped out of his daze from earlier, when Chen had blocked his attack. His expression turned grim, and a terrifying aura of spiritual energy immediately enveloped the area. Humph! What are you even worth, to dare challenge someone from the great Luo domain? But this time, Chen didn't need to make a move. The Xun'er king's cold laughter echoed in the air, and with a single step, he appeared in the sky. His sharp gaze locked onto the evil king, and he stood firm, effortlessly resisting the evil king's spiritual energy pressure all by himself. The 2 seventh-grade supremes faced off in the sky. The pressure between them was so intense that it surpassed the earlier confrontation between Chen and Lin Ming. As the Xun'er king and the evil king stared each other down, the many powerhouses from both the great Luo domain and the Netherworld Palace tensed up, and the atmosphere became thick with tension. Hee, evil king, if you wish to start a war, the great Luo domain will be happy to accompany you. But before that, I suggest we settle our bet first. In the midst of the tense atmosphere, Chen's faint smile suddenly rang out, and that smile made even the evil king and all the Netherworld Palace powerhouses flinch, their faces twitching with anger. All the onlookers' eyes also shifted. Some seemed to take pleasure in the misfortune of the Netherworld Palace, while others who had old grudges with the palace couldn't resist mocking them. The Netherworld Palace has been so arrogant for so long. It's finally getting what it deserves. Though the real question is, will the Netherworld Palace admit their loss? If they don't hand over the fallen source pills, the Lord of the Netherworld Palace won't let a single one of them off the hook. But if they refuse to give them up, the Netherworld Palace will lose face. Hearing these sarcastic remarks, the evil king's face alternated between green and white, his eyes filled with fury. He never expected Lin Ming, who was originally sure of victory, to lose this battle. Chen, don't go too far. If necessary, we'll hand over the Ice River King to you. The Netherworld Palace will admit defeat in this matter. The evil king gritted his teeth. Chen, upon hearing this, lowered his eyes and said, "This is not something I decided alone. Everyone here heard the bet clearly. If I had lost, would you, evil king, have been so kind to let it slide?" The evil king's eyelids twitched. He finally realized that Chen wasn't about to let this matter slide easily. However, Asking them to give up 40,000 fallen source pills was impossible. If the Lord of the Netherworld Palace found out, they would be slaughtered without mercy. But if they go back on their word in front of the Northern Domain's heroes, the Netherworld Palace would lose all face. They were truly being forced into a corner. The top-tier forces like the Divine Pavilion and Mystic Hall, witnessing the Netherworld Palace being driven into a corner, felt a bit of unease, yet also some relief. Thankfully, it was the Netherworld Palace that was in the hot seat today. If it had been them, they might have been contemplating suicide at this point. Right now, the Netherworld Palace was in a dire situation. The next steps would reveal how they would deal with this massive mess. After the fierce battle between Chen and Lin Ming, the Bone Mountain range lay in ruins. Massive cracks crisscrossed the mountains, and peaks had collapsed under the violent conflict. All of this stood as testament to the extreme intensity of the previous clash. Fortunately, the earth-shattering battle had finally come to an end. But everyone knew that when the fighting ceased, the real suffering of the day was just beginning, and that suffering stemmed from the terrifying bet. 40,000 fallen source pills. After months of hard struggle, Chen and the others had managed to gather all the fallen source pills from the Great Luo Heaven Domain, and now the total number was barely on par with the sum they had. If they handed them over now, their hopes of unlocking the Earth's supreme relic would be dashed. It would be wiser to return home immediately. If they were in such a situation, the same was true for the top power of the Netherworld Palace. Thus, when the powerful figures of the Netherworld Palace looked at Lin Ming, captured by Chen, and then at the forces from all directions that were focusing on them, their faces involuntarily turned pale. Today, they had originally planned to bury the Great Luo Heaven Domain here, but who would have thought that the pit they dug for others would end up swallowing them instead, while the Great Luo Heaven Domain, which had been in the pit, stepped on their heads and climbed out. It's all that brat's fault. The many experts of the Netherworld Palace gnashed their teeth as they glared at Chen. The current situation had been entirely caused by Chen. If it weren't for him, it would have been the Great Luo Heaven Domain in a dilemma right now. However, no matter how much they hated Chen now, the situation had reached this point, and the Netherworld Palace had to cover this huge hole. The Netherworld Palace is one of the top powers in the Northern Domain. Surely, the Netherworld Palace won't have the face to break its word in public, right? As the gazes of the Heavenly Evil King and others changed, Chen smiled slightly and said, "Shut up." The Heavenly Evil King shot Chen a furious glare. He was extremely angry, knowing full well that Chen was trying to use flattery to ruin the Netherworld Palace. Heavenly Evil King, you are a renowned expert in the Northern Domain. At least show some grace in defeat. Of course, if you really want to back out, then the Great Luo Heaven Domain can accompany you to the end today. The Xun'er King said coldly. The Heavenly Evil King gritted his teeth, his eyes filled with struggle. Behind him, the powerful figures of the Netherworld Palace dared not speak. For a moment, all the forces in the world focused on the Netherworld Palace, eager to see how they would clean up this mess. An oppressive silence lasted for quite a while in the world, and the Heavenly Evil King finally let out a dejected sigh. When the many experts in the heavens saw his expression, their hearts skipped a beat. It seemed that the Netherworld Palace was really going to hand over the fallen source pills. However, just as all eyes were fixed on the Netherworld Palace and the Heavenly Evil King was about to speak, a cold, ancient grunt suddenly echoed through the empty space, like thunder, and resounded through the heavens and the earth. Under the sound of this grunt, it was as if the very world had trembled. The powerful figures of the various forces suddenly changed their expressions, for they felt an overwhelming pressure penetrating the space, and it finally enveloped the entire world. As their expressions changed drastically, they saw the space above the Netherworld Palace twist, and an old figure slowly emerged. The hunched figure was an old man wearing a black robe, with grayish-white hair. His eyes, though murky, gleamed with a piercing light capable of piercing through space. He held a skull staff, floating in midair. He finally realized that Chen wasn't about to let this matter slide easily. However, asking them to give up 40,000 fallen source pills was impossible. If the Lord of the Netherworld Palace found out, they would be slaughtered without mercy. But if they go back on their word in front of the Northern Domain's heroes, the Netherworld Palace would lose all face. They were truly being forced into a corner. The top-tier forces like the Divine Pavilion and Mystic Hall, witnessing the Netherworld Palace being driven into a corner, felt a bit of unease, yet also some relief. Thankfully, it was the Netherworld Palace that was in the hot seat today. If it had been them, they might have been contemplating suicide at this point. Right now, the Netherworld Palace was in a dire situation. The next steps would reveal how they would deal with this massive mess. After the fierce battle between Chen and Lin Ming, the Bone Mountain range lay in ruins. Massive cracks crisscrossed the mountains, and peaks had collapsed under the violent conflict. All of this stood as testament to the extreme intensity of the previous clash. Fortunately, the earth-shattering battle had finally come to an end. But everyone knew that when the fighting ceased, the real suffering of the day was just beginning, and that suffering stemmed from the terrifying bet. 40,000 fallen source pills. After months of hard struggle, Chen and the others had managed to gather all the fallen source pills from the Great Luo Heaven Domain, and now the total number was barely on par with the sum they had. If they handed them over now, their hopes of unlocking the Earth's supreme relic would be dashed. It would be wiser to return home immediately. If they were in such a situation, the same was true for the top power of the Netherworld Palace. Thus, when the powerful figures of the Netherworld Palace looked at Lin Ming, captured by Chen, and then at the forces from all directions that were focusing on them, their faces involuntarily turned pale. Today, they had originally planned to bury the Great Luo Heaven Domain here, but who would have thought that the pit they dug for others would end up swallowing them instead, while the Great Luo Heaven Domain, which had been in the pit, stepped on their heads and climbed out. It's all that brat's fault. The many experts of the Netherworld Palace gnashed their teeth as they glared at Chen. The current situation had been entirely caused by Chen. If it weren't for him, it would have been the Great Luo Heaven Domain in a dilemma right now. However, no matter how much they hated Chen now, the situation had reached this point, and the Netherworld Palace had to cover this huge hole. The Netherworld Palace is one of the top powers in the Northern Domain. Surely, the Netherworld Palace won't have the face to break its word in public, right? As the gazes of the Heavenly Evil King and others changed, Chen smiled slightly and said, "Shut up." The Heavenly Evil King shot Chen a furious glare. He was extremely angry, knowing full well that Chen was trying to use flattery to ruin the Netherworld Palace. Heavenly Evil King, you are a renowned expert in the Northern Domain. At least show some grace in defeat. Of course, if you really want to back out, then the Great Luo Heaven Domain can accompany you to the end today. The Xun'er King said coldly. The Heavenly Evil King gritted his teeth, his eyes filled with struggle. Behind him, the powerful figures of the Netherworld Palace dared not speak. For a moment, all the forces in the world focused on the Netherworld Palace, eager to see how they would clean up this mess. An oppressive silence lasted for quite a while in the world, and the Heavenly Evil King finally let out a dejected sigh. When the many experts in the heavens saw his expression, their hearts skipped a beat. It seemed that the Netherworld Palace was really going to hand over the fallen source pills. However, just as all eyes were fixed on the Netherworld Palace and the Heavenly Evil King was about to speak, a cold, ancient grunt suddenly echoed through the empty space, like thunder, and resounded through the heavens and the earth. Under the sound of this grunt, it was as if the very world had trembled. The powerful figures of the various forces suddenly changed their expressions, for they felt an overwhelming pressure penetrating the space, and it finally enveloped the entire world. As their expressions changed drastically, they saw the space above the Netherworld Palace twist, and an old figure slowly emerged. The hunched figure was an old man wearing a black robe with grayish-white hair. His eyes, though murky, gleamed with a piercing light capable of piercing through space. He held a skull staff, floating in midair. The black light streaked through the space, and Lin Ming's head exploded, blood splattering everywhere. Chen waved his sleeve, scattering the blood that had splattered toward him. He looked grimly at the headless body in his hands. It was clear that Lin Ming was now dead beyond any doubt. Whoosh! Behind him, the 9 Nether, mountain-splitting king, and the others all rushed forward, surrounding Chen in protection, their eyes wary as they stared at the Netherfire Elder. This sudden change in events startled all the forces present. By the time they regained their composure, Lin Ming had been slain, causing their hearts to race. Everyone could see that the Netherfire Elder's target wasn't Mu Chen, but the Lin Ming he had held in his hands. Netherfire Elder truly has a ruthless hand, a Xun'er king muttered, his voice deep. With this, the Netherfire Elder could directly push all the consequences onto Lin Ming. The Netherfire Elder glanced indifferently at the headless corpse and said, "A fool who thought that becoming a battle formation master meant he could act recklessly. This great hunting war concerns the future of my Netherworld palace. A mere 10,000 runes battle array master. If he dies, he dies." Although battle formation masters were carefully nurtured in their Netherworld palace, when it came to value, in the eyes of the Netherfire Elder, Lin Ming's life wasn't worth the 400,000 fallen source pills. The various forces watching this scene felt a chill at the Netherfire Elder's ruthless behavior. This gambling match was caused by Lin Ming. If you want the fallen source pills, go seek him out. The Netherfire Elder paused, and then turned his gaze back to Mu Chen, a Xun'er king, and the others with a more chilling look. And now, it's time to settle the score for the death of my Netherworld Palace's battle formation master. In the back, upon hearing these words, the heavenly evil king and the others felt a surge of murderous intent in their eyes. Immediately, the former's figure moved, appearing directly beside the Ice River King. With a palm pressed on the latter's heavenly spirit cap, spiritual energy surged, intending to shatter his physical body. Mu Chen, the Xun'er king, and the others saw this scene, their expressions immediately turning ashen. "Kill him," the Netherfire Elder said coldly. "Yes," replied the heavenly evil king. Then, with a sinister smile, he slammed his palm down. However, just as the heavenly evil king's palm was about to strike the Ice River King's heavenly spirit cap, his body suddenly froze in place. Then, a faint, ancient laugh rang out. "Netherfire, you old bastard, you're truly shameless, sneaking out to bully the juniors. But with me here, killing someone from the great Luo Heaven domain won't be as easy as you think." When the ancient voice rang out, everyone saw the space behind the heavenly evil king ripple slightly, and an old figure emerged. With his palm loosely gripped, a terrifying spiritual pressure enveloped the area, as if freezing the space itself. The heavenly evil king's body couldn't move, and the palm strike he had been about to deliver hung, suspended above the Ice River King's heavenly spirit cap, unable to land. When Mu Chen, the Nine Nether, the Xun'er king, and the other high-ranking members of the great Luo Heaven domain saw the ancient figure, their eyes immediately lit up with surprise. The person who had appeared was none other than one of the three sovereigns of the great Luo Heaven domain.